Hello, family and friends. I am back with your next video on the topic of boundaries. This is the second video of our 5-week series on the topic of boundaries. And today we will be talking about boundaries in romantic relationships. So, if you follow me on Facebook, you should have seen where I posted a scenario about a relationship, a romantic relationship where boundaries were not clearly set from the beginning and it caused some issues. So I'm going to briefly go over what that scenario was. I'm not going to read the scenario word for word. It is not a real life scenario, but the topic and the ideas and the issues within that scenario are definitely things that some of us have dealt with, and some of you may be dealing with them now. I know in my 20s and 30s, I definitely dealt with that type of thing in relationships. So, this scenario was Tasha and Dre. They've been together for 2 years, and Tasha is starting to feel drained because Dre needs constant attention from her, and he never gives Tasha space. So Dre tends to text Tasha all day long, expecting her to respond, even when she's at work. He pops up at her job to bring her lunch for her lunch break without calling, confirming, to see if she has any other plans, or even just waiting to be invited, or something like that. Surprises are good from time to time, but you have to take into consideration what your partner may have going on. It may be something where they need to work through lunch. Hopefully that's not happening. That's another topic. Or they may decide they want to go to lunch with friends or what have you. So what Dre has done is pops up at her job unexpectedly. He gets upset when she wants to hang out with her girlfriend. So when she, needs a break and wants to have a girls' night out, he gets upset because she's not there with him. So also in this scenario, we see that Tasha in the beginning thought that all of this attention was love, that he just loves her so much and he just wants to be around her. And she was accepting of it in the beginning, but now she's starting to feel suffocated because there's no space. There's, if she's not at work, she's with him, they're at her house, and they're always together. So he's at her place again, as I said, usually laying on her couch playing video games. And on this particular night, when Tasha decides to have the conversation with him, it is actually out of frustration because she gets home, he's laying on the couch, he's playing a video game, and then he has the nerve to ask her, "Are you cooking dinner?" Right? And so that was the straw that broke the camel's back for her. And so she told him, "We need to talk." And she let him know that she loves him, but that she needs space. She needs time to herself. So, of course, as you can, guess, Dre got offended and he was defensive throughout this conversation, asking her what she means. And he thought that she loved having him around. From his perspective, you never said this before. It's 2 years in. We've been doing the same thing for 2 years, and now you're telling me that it's too much and you need space. So he's defensive. So as Tanya continues the conversation, and clearing up things and telling him that she feels suffocated and needs space, he, gets upset. He walks out, and, um, that's where the scenario ends. So when we think about this type of scenario, let's think about some points, some teaching points that I can go over with you all. So this scenario shows what can happen when we don't set boundaries early on in a relationship. Okay. So when you don't set those boundaries early on in a relationship, it can cause emotional exhaustion. It can cause misunderstandings. It can cause hurt feelings, and it can cause resentment within the relationship. So setting those boundaries early on is extremely important. Okay. So let's talk about how it began, right? So the ownership does not only lie with Dre. Tasha has to take ownership in this issue as well. So breaking it down, there were no clear boundaries in the beginning, right? Tasha liked the attention in the beginning. Maybe she had never been in a relationship where she was given that much attention. And so she was welcoming it early on, and it felt good. It felt loving. It felt caring, and all of those good things. She never communicated that she needed time alone, right? So even though maybe before she and Dre got together, she was spending a lot of time alone, had her, maybe her daily routines, working out, her self care days, spa days, beauty shop, nail shop, all these things. Maybe these things were part of her life, hanging out with her girlfriends, things like that. Um, so when they got together, she really just allowed that to become her new life, her new lifestyle, and she never communicated to him that she needs time alone. So because of this, Dre then assumes that her behavior is inviting. It is well, he's welcome, that whatever he's doing, is acceptable, and that they were on the same page. So she ignored the times where she felt uncomfortable. So when she started to feel suffocated, she ignored it, and she never had the conversations with him because she didn't want to start an argument or for there to be any kind of tension in their relationship. So say 6 months in, she's like, oh, wow, I've been missing going to the gym. I haven't really talked to my friends. I haven't hung out with my girlfriends. I don't do anything outside of, me and Dre. And I'm starting to feel this, but, I love him. I don't want to hurt his feelings, and I don't want our relationship to end. So I'm just not going to say anything. Right. And where does that get you? Right. So now you get Tasha and Dre 2 years in having the conversation, and there's a lot of emotion going on. So, um, Dre got comfortable in the process, right? So, since there were no boundaries set, Dre got comfortable treating her space as his own without asking permission. So, staying over without asking permission to stay over, coming to her apartment when she's at work, maybe it's his day off or whatever, and being there when she gets home, um, and taking her space, her resources, and everything as it's his, right? Now remember, they're just dating, they're not married, so it's a different dynamic, okay? So let's talk about the red flags. So overstepping physical space. Okay, so we just talked about that with him staying over without asking, possibly eating her food and not replacing it. So we've all had those situations where, maybe there's orange juice in the refrigerator and someone takes the last glass of the orange juice and just does not replace it, and you wake up the next morning thinking you're going to have a nice glass of orange juice and it's not there, right? So, maybe doing those type of things, disrupting her routine, times where she would normally go to the gym or normally go hang out with her friends. He's maybe made plans for them to do things together, or has decided that he's going to come over and he wants her to spend time with him at the house. Another red flag is guilt tripping and emotional manipulation. So when she voiced her feelings, he twisted it on her, and it was like, so now I'm a burden. She never said that he was a burden, right? So he instantly went to manipulation instead of listening and really taking in what she was saying and asking questions for better understanding. um, the lack of respect for her time and energy. So he always expected her to be available. So calling her while she's at work, texting her while she's at work, or just assuming that she wanted to spend all of her time with him. It doesn't mean that she doesn't love him because she is saying, hey, I want to do things with other people too. It means, it doesn't mean that, but in his mind, he didn't have that understanding or that respect for her time and her energy. Um, and another red flag is when you feel drained instead of fulfilled in a relationship. Okay. So Tasha felt overwhelmed and exhausted. And that is a clear sign of boundary violations, because that emotional exhaustion is real and it can manifest in so many different ways, right? And so with her not being able to, or not taking the steps to be honest about how she was feeling, she was harboring all of those feelings and all of those emotions and just letting them build up. And so she began to feel drained, unfulfilled, in the relationship. And I say this all the time, variety is the spice of life, right? So it's important for those people who are in romantic relationships to have their own interests outside of each other. For one thing, it allows you to, express yourself in the way that you desire, do the things that make you happy and bring you joy. But also, it gives something for you and your partner to talk about when you come together. Okay. And when you are together, it's not the same old thing over and over again, the same conversations. You have new ideas, new thoughts, new things that you saw, new interest, or what have you, that you can discuss when you come together. Um, so if you find yourself in these types of situation, here are some helpful tips I can share with you. So number one, you want to clearly define your boundaries. Okay. Determine what you need to feel peace in your space. What is it that you need in order to feel peaceful? Set designated days for a long time. So Tasha could have told Dre, hey, from the beginning, right? These are the days that I practice self-care. These are the days that I typically hang out with my girlfriends. These are the days that I go to the spa or I go get my nails done. So these days are going to be days where I'm going to be me, myself, and I. Okay. I'll call you, I'll text you, or whatever those days. But for the most part, it is me, myself, and I. Okay. So setting those clear, designated days for a long time doesn't mean that if something comes up, a concert, an outing or something like that, that you two both agree that you want to do together, doesn't mean that it can't change. But that needs to be set in, from the foundation, from the beginning, that I do desire, love, need, and want my alone time. Establish expectations about when you will have couple time and visits, right? So if you're living separately, right, make sure that you have those communications about, okay, maybe we're going to, every other weekend, spend a weekend with each other at one of our homes. Wednesday night can be, movie night, where we come together after work, we watch movies, and we may stay all night, we may not. Whatever works for you, but set those days, set that foundation. Again, it doesn't have to be set in stone where nothing can change, but that is the foundation of your relationship, where you have those expectations that this is what we agree on, and this is how much time we're going to spend together. Communicate clearly that your food, time, resources, and space needs to be respected, right? So you have your separate homes. When Tasha is at Dre's house, Tasha has to respect Dre's space, respect his resources, and vice versa. When he's at her home, respect her space, respect her resources. Yes, that is your partner, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, but they are individuals, right? And so respect what they have for themselves, and don't take it for granted. Okay. Again, it's using direct communication when you address boundaries. So use I statements when you are addressing these boundaries, right? So instead of saying you're always in my space, say I need time to recharge alone. Okay. So that's an I statement. This is what I need. Okay, I'm not pointing the finger at you. I'm not blaming you. I'm not making this about you. This is about me. I need time to recharge. I need my space. Okay, you want to keep it firm, but keep it respectful. Okay, and do not ask permission. Hey, I was just wondering if maybe, Wednesday night we can, not meet up. I was just wondering if you'd be okay if I just, take that day for myself. I'm just kind of missing doing some things, some self-care things, right? Why are you asking permission? No, you can be respectful and state what you need. Hey, Wednesday, this is what I would like to see happen. I'm going to come home from work, and I'll call you once I get home and we'll talk for a little bit, but for the rest of that evening I just want to be alone. I just need that alone time just to kind of decompress, do some journaling, read the rest of the book that I've been working on reading, or what have you. Just set it out there. Stay calm, even if the relationship takes a turn and the other person, is defensive. You don't have to get defensive, right? You stated what you need, you stated what you expect, and that's the end of it, right? So, those are some of the things to think about when you begin to have these conversations to begin to change the direction your relationship is going into, right? Another thing is to be consistent. So once you set these boundaries, be consistent in sticking with the boundaries. Okay, so what typically happens, I'm a transformation coach, so I talk to a lot of people. So what typically happens is that they will set the boundary and say they're doing good for maybe a week or two, and then all of a sudden they're, maybe their partner is, saying things that start to make them feel guilty. I really miss, coming over every weekend, or I really miss bringing you lunch. I really miss doing this or doing that, or, I know you said that you was going to do this today, but, I really wanted to come over, and then slowly over time, those boundaries start to get taken away again. Right. And they're back in that circle of things that they don't want to be in. So you have to be consistent. You set the boundary, you have to stick with that boundary without guilt. There's nothing to feel guilty about, right? This is self-care. Boundaries are self-care. And again, if the person refuses to respect the boundaries that you set in place, then that could be a sign that it's time to reevaluate the relationship and see if it's a healthy relationship. Because healthy relationships require communication. Healthy relationships require boundaries, okay? And they require respect. And if you're not able to communicate openly with your partner, if there's no mutual respect, if there's no boundaries in how you do things, or what you're able to say, or your, whatever, then that doesn't sound like a healthy relationship, okay? So it may be time for you to reevaluate that. So as you shift your mindset about boundaries, these are some things to remember. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. It is self-care. Okay. People who truly love and respect you will honor your boundaries. And boundaries should strengthen a relationship by creating mutual respect. Boundaries should not pull you apart from your partner, right? Boundaries should strengthen that relationship because now it's requiring more respect and more communication, okay, about where are we going from here? What do we both desire? Okay. So there are two types of agreements that come along in relationships for the most part. So you have your implicit and your explicit. So the explicit agreement is a clear and direct understanding. So that is you saying clearly and direct, I need space in a long time. Okay, that's it. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to quantify it. You don't have to go over and beyond to make the other person feel comfortable with it. You just have to say it. I need space and alone time. Okay? The implicit is an understanding or contract that is assumed based on actions. Okay? So you assume people know how to conduct themselves in a relationship with you. So just because you've been in a relationship with someone for 2 years, as Tasha and Dre in this scenario, neither one of them could assume that the other knew how to conduct themselves in a relationship with them, right? Because you're two individual people. So setting that boundary teaches each person how to conduct themselves in a relationship with that individual. You assume that people will meet your needs without you telling them what those needs are, right? So oftentimes I hear people say, well, he should have known or she should have known. Well, how? Did you express that? Did you communicate that? Were you honest about how you feel? How do you expect them to know when you did not communicate that with them? You assume that people automatically know your expectations. No. So Tasha, well, Dre drank the last of the orange juice. He knew, I expected him to replace it. How? 2 years has gone by and he's never been asked to replace it. You never told him, hey Dre, when you drink the last of the orange juice, I expect you to replace that. You never said that. So he's probably assuming, oh, Tasha don't care. When she, goes to the grocery store over the weekend, she'll just pick up another, thing of orange juice. She's cool with it. How is he supposed to know? Okay. So, and we got to always too understand that not everybody was raised the same. So you may say, well, in my household, if we did A, B, C, and D, this was, we had an understanding that this is what was expected. Well, that's your household. Not everybody was raised the same. So when you come together with another person who is a totally different individual than you are, who was raised totally different than you are, culturally, maybe their household was just totally different. You cannot expect them to know what you desire. Okay? You can't assume it. So instead of going about your life like this, assuming stuff, how about we assume that people know only what we tell them? They honor only what we request of them, and that they cannot read our minds. Okay, let me say that again. How about we assume that people know only what we tell them, honor only what we request of them, and they cannot read our minds? You know what that does for us? That makes it clear that we have to communicate. Because if I'm assuming that the next person knows nothing about what I desire, what I want, without telling them, they cannot read my mind, that tells me I need to open my mouth. Okay? Communicate. So with that, I just want you to know, if we proceed in this way, our communication is clear and our boundaries are clear, then that brings about healthy relationships. All right. So setting clear boundaries, clear expectations, communicating, not assuming someone knows what you need, what you want, what you desire. Okay. And knowing and understanding that no one can read your mind. Set those boundaries. Get some peace in your life. All right. Practice self-care. I love you all. Namaste.